Hello and welcome to our video. I'm Jason Boatman with CERT Machines, and I'm here today to teach you how to use Inkscape to get metal art for your cutting machine. Some real quick information here to start with. We're going to cover our toolbars real quick. On my left here I have the most common tools that you'll use in Inkscape, and the ones that I generally use a lot of is this top one, which is my selection tool. I also call it the pointer tool. This one right here allows me to draw rectangles and squares. This allows me to draw circles. This one creates stars and polygons and multi-sided shapes. We also have my text tool right here. We can draw in freehand with this, and there's a few other options that I really don't use very much. On the right of my screen I have my properties windows. Right now I have the text and font properties window open. This is the align and distribute properties window, and this right here is the fill and stroke properties window. If you do not see these, you can open them by going up here to the object menu, and fill and stroke will be right there. See, I can turn it off or on. And then I also have the align and distribute right here. The text properties window comes from clicking on that right there. Alright. Now what I'm going to be doing today is showing you how to create a Christmas ornament that looks very much like this. This is an ornament that me and my kids like to make every year. It's quick and it's easy, and it shows just about all the major steps that you must do to create any kind of metal art that you can cut. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up a new window of Inkscape. And when it comes open, you'll notice that almost always it's set to millimeters up here. I do not like millimeters, I prefer inches. Also, we have this background of a sheet of paper. This is just here for reference to give us an idea of what size a sheet of paper is for when we're doing just regular graphics. It does me absolutely no good, and it just gets in my road. So I'm going to shut those off first. So I come over here to File, Document and Properties, and I change this right here to inches, that to inches, and then I turn my border off. Then I just close the window. So now I have a nice blank screen, and it's ready for me to start making my Christmas ornament. Well, if we look at that Christmas ornament real quick, we'll see that it's made up of a few basic shapes. First we have a circle that makes the ball portion. Then we have this little rectangle or square up here on top, this little hole cut out, and then the words Merry Christmas. Alright, so to begin, what I would like to do first is create the little circle that'll be our main ball part of the ornament. So to do that, I'm going to select the circle tool. I'm just going to click out here anywhere and drag my circle. Alright, I'm not going to worry about what size it is exactly until after I select my select tool and it's highlighted, and then I can look up here at the width and the height and see that it's 5.6 inches wide by 6.8 inches tall. Now I want my circle to be exactly 4 inches by 4 inches. So I just highlight each of the length and width and change them to 4. Now I have a circle that is exactly 4 inches in diameter. Alright, now that my circle is 4 inches in diameter, you're going to note that it's not solid. It's all you see is the outline. And I like to turn my fill on here to make it solid. And the reason for that is I find it's much easier for me to look at what I'm doing if I look at this like it's a piece of metal that I've cut out. And then as I work, you can see what I'm cutting out of it. So I just turn the fill on and make it nice and solid. The color doesn't matter. It's going to preset to whatever color you used last, which for me that was black. So now that I have my circle here that's solid, we're going to do the next portion, and we're going to put the little square here on top. So to do that, I'm going to grab my little square creation tool right here, and I'm going to just make a little square up here above. Again, I'm not going to worry about what size it is yet. I'm going to click up here on my selection tool. It automatically highlights, And then I look at my length and width, or my width and height right here. My width is a 1/2 inch and my height is almost a 1/2 inch. But I want it to be 3/4 of an inch. So I highlight the width and change it to 0.75. Then I can hit tab, it jumps right to the height, and I can change it to 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch. Now once I have it drawn, I'm going to move it down and line it up so it overlaps just a little bit into my black circle. I'm not going to get too worried about the exact height, I just want it to look good. So I just overlap, and I just need to make sure that it overlaps. So now that it overlaps, what I'm going to try to do now is align it vertically so that it's centered with my ball. And Inkscape will do that nicely. So first I'm going to click up here and hold my left button and drag over the top of both, and that will select both of them. See how that one's highlighted and this one's highlighted. You can also hold down the shift key and click on them both. Either way is fine, they just both need to be selected. And then with my align and distribute properties window, I can come up here and select the center on vertical axis, and it'll line it up perfectly centered. Just in case you didn't see it, I'm going to drag it over and do it again. Highlight them both and center on vertical axis. Now that I have them centered, we're ready to move on to the next step. But the one thing I must realize first is that they're two separate entities. That is separate from that. I'm going to hold down the control key and hit Z to undo that move. And I need to make them one. So again, I'm going to highlight them both, select them both, and go up here to Path and Union, which allows Inkscape to weld them together. Now they're one piece. To show you again, Control Z to undo, and then I'll select them both, Path, Union. Now they're one piece. So now that my pieces are all one piece, I need to put the little hole right here. To do that is very simple. Again, just like we did with the square, we're going to go over here, we're going to grab our circle tool. I'll come back over here, click and drag a circle. Don't care what size it is, we're just click on our selection tool, it'll be highlighted, and then it'll give me my width and height. I want it to be 3/8 of an inch, so 0.325, tab, 0.325, tab. Now I have a 3/8 diameter hole, but it's the same color as my Christmas ornament and I cannot see it. So what I'm going to do is come down here and just change the color to any color you want, just so that it shows up on the ball. But I'm going to make it white, just so I can show you something else here in just a minute. So now that it's white and I can see it real clear, I'm going to drag it up here so it's just about where I want it to be inside that square, maybe just a little higher. Alright, and then I'm going to select them both again and allow Inkscape to center that vertically. Alright, so this looks exactly like I want it to over here with our other Christmas ornament. But there's still a few things we need to do. The first thing I want to note is that that hole is not actually a hole. It is a white circle drawn on top of a black Christmas ornament. And what we really want to do is actually make a hole. Now to show you what I mean, right now these are two separate pieces. See that? And I need it to be actually a hole cut into that Christmas ornament. So hold down my control key, hit Z to move it back into position. Now I'm going to select them both again, and I'm going to go up here to Path and Difference. Now my hole is actually cut into the Christmas ornament. It looks the same, but it is actually different. This is a hole in the Christmas ornament. The other was a white circle drawn on top of the Christmas ornament. This makes it much more reliable when we take it into SheetCam. So now that I have my hole in my Christmas ornament, we need to add the text. So I'm going to hold down my control key and zoom out just a little bit. Then I'm going to select my text tool right here. I'm going to just create a text box down below my Christmas ornament, not actually in my Christmas ornament. Now with text and SheetCam, I find it easiest if I just go ahead and type my message, whatever it is, and not worry about any of the text settings yet. So, Merry Christmas. Alright, so now that I have it typed in there, I'm going to highlight it. Now I'm going to go over here to my text and font, and I'm going to change some of the settings. I can select any font I want. Sans serif works really well, and there's also some others that work well. I'm going to change it to bold. I find when I'm cutting letters, it's always better to make them bold as fat as possible. It makes it easier for the torch. I'm going to center it, and then I'm going to change the size to 48. And you don't have to worry about the size too much. You can actually make it bigger later. I'll show you that. So I changed all the settings I want to change, and I hit apply, and they take effect. So now that I have my Merry Christmas in there, I'm going to select the selection tool, and I'm going to drag it up here. But again, it's black, and I cannot see it. So I'm going to change the color to red. Now that I have my color red, I can see it right out here, but there's a couple of small things to note. One, when I cut out letters like this E that have an inside piece to them like that, whenever I cut it, that inside piece will fall out and it will not remain with your part. So it's better to do these with stencils. Now you can download stencil fonts and install them in Windows and then use them here, and it'll do that for you, or you can create your stencils yourself. Now usually I end up creating my stencils myself because I can't get the downloaded ones to look the way I want them. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, drag Merry Christmas over here by itself, and then I'm going to zoom back in. Alright, so I want to remove a little bit of this E right here. And we do it just like we did with the little circle. So I'm going to draw a small rectangle of the to represent the material I wanted to remove. Now one thing to note, the stroke is still on, which the stroke is the outside, the outline of the rectangle. And from what I'm doing, it will mess this up. So I just come over here to stroke and paint, and I turn it off. So it's still solid, it just doesn't have that black outline. Select my pointer tool. I'm going to hold down the control and use my scroll wheel to zoom in. Now I'm going to move it so it's lined up right there in that corner. And then I'm going to make it a little smaller so it doesn't eat out of my curve right there. That's pretty good right there. So now that I have it drawn in there, that's the amount of material I want to remove. I'm going to click on it to highlight it. I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to click on the text. Zoom back out just a little bit so I can make sure that this is selected and that is selected. Then I'm going to come up here to path and difference, and it just removed that material out of my E. I'll zoom out by holding down the control key, using my scroll mouse, and then zoom back in now here on the A. Select my rectangle tool again, draw me a quick rectangle, and if you notice that time I let it snap right to that corner. You see that handle pop up there, and it popped it right on the edge, right where I wanted it. And that snap can be turned on and off right here. But sometimes like that it's very, very useful. Other times it gets annoying. But for right there, I'm right down on that edge, right where I want it. So I just make the rectangle the size I want it to be again. That's pretty close actually right there. So I'm just going to, with it selected, hold down my shift key, select my text. Now I can see that they're both highlighted. Path, difference, and remove that material from my A. Now, neither of the centerpieces of my A or the E will fall out. It makes it much easier to read. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here and show you a few other things. With this selection box around my Merry Christmas, I can use any one of these pull bars to change the size of my Merry Christmas. And also just drag it wider, taller. Now I'm going to Control Z to undo those, so it's back to the original size. I can also, with it highlighted, click right here on the line again. Oops, missed. And change it to my rotation tool. So now I can grab it and rotate it. Put it clear upside down if I want. I can put it in here at an angle and cut it out of an angle if I wanted to. But for what I'm doing, I want to leave it straight. So I'm going to Control Z to undo and put it back to the way we had it. Alright, so now we're ready to cut the Merry Christmas out of my ball. So I'm going to get it up there close to where I want it. I'm going to highlight them both again. Then using my align and distribute, I'm going to center them vertically as well as horizontally. Now one thing to note, when I do the horizontal, it goes from here to here. So it centers it inside that overall distance, not in the circle itself, which for what I'm doing is just fine. If you wanted to put the Merry Christmas in the exact center of the ball, then you would have to put it in there first, then add the square to the top of it. Alright, so now that it's in there, I need to cut it out of my Christmas ball. So I highlight them both, come up here to Path and Difference. And there it is. That is all one piece with the hole and Merry Christmas cut out of it. Now it's ready to be saved and brought into SheetCam. Before I do that, I want to get rid of the fill so I can just see the outline. So with it highlighted like that, I just come over here to Stroke, and it's turned on, and then I come over to Fill and turn it off. Now I just see the outline, and this is exactly the path that my machine will follow. Just like that. So now I just come up here to File and Save As, and I want to make sure I select Plain SVG instead of Inkscape SVG. Plain SVG is much more reliable. And then I'm going to give it a name. Christmas is what I'll use. And save. So now that it's saved as an SVG, I can come into SheetCam and I can import that part. 1:1 because I drew it to the exact size I wanted it to. And there it is. See how Merry Christmas is all yellow? That means that all the profiles are closed. The outside is red. The circle is yellow. So that part is ready to be cammed and exported into my cutting machine. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to talking to you next time.